Welcome to episode 8 of the Ulysses Unlocked podcast, where we analyze Ulysses by James Joyce one page at a time. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment to support us.
Great to be diving back in. Today we're hitting lines 306 through 362. This is basically the final stretch of that opening scene in the Martello Tower.
Right, we're moving off the roof.
Exactly. We leave that sort of high theological drama up there and plunge right into the messy reality of breakfast inside. It's smoky, it's chaotic.
So what's our mission for this deep dive? What are we looking for in these, 56 lines or so?
Well, the mission is really to show how Joyce crams so much into this seemingly small space. We're talking meditations on servitude, really specific architectural details and symbolism, that raw Irish humor we see with Mulligan.
Definitely the humor.
Oh, yeah. And then, kind of surprisingly, a detour into, believe it or not, 2,000 years of Roman history and controversy. It all comes together here. Okay, sounds like a lot packed in. Let's start where the scene starts, with that transition. Stephen comes down, and his focus lands on the shaving bowl.
Yes, the nickel shaving bowl. Last time, Mulligan was using it as a mock ciborium, remember? Holding it up like it was sacred.
Right, on the rooftop. But now...
Now just shown, forgotten on the parapet, and Stephen immediately zeroes in on it. He doesn't just see it, he interacts with it.
He picks it up.
He picks it up, holds it, feels the coolness. And he smells it, that clammy flavor of the lather in which the brush was stuck. Joyce gives us these really visceral sensory details.
And that physical contact, the smell.
Yeah.
It triggers something, doesn't it?
Instantly. It's not just a dirty bowl anymore. It becomes a link. That mundane object, that leftover bit of grooming, it immediately connects him back to his past, specifically his religious past.
So holding the bowl, this thing Mulligan just used to mock the mass, makes him think.
He thinks, so I carried the boat of incense then at Clongowes. Boom! Instant connection. This profane object becomes the sacred vessel from his childhood memories as an altar boy. And that thought process leads directly into the core theme here, right? This idea of service.
Exactly. It kicks off this whole internal crisis about service, servitude, freedom. It's all wrapped up in that moment with the bowl.
The line that follows is short, but wow, it's dense. I am another now, and yet the same. A servant, too. A server of a servant.
Incredibly dense. That's Stephen's self-assessment right there. He's left his family. He thinks he's left the church. But is he free? No. He sees himself as still fundamentally unfree, still serving.
Let's really unpack that phrase, server of a servant. What does that mean in the Catholic context he's drawing from?
Okay, so when he says server, he's thinking back to being an altar boy at Clongowes. The server is the acolyte, the assistant at Mass.
Helping the priest.
Right. Handling the book, the cruets, maybe the incense Bawdy just remembered, ringing the bells, saying the Latin responses. You're assisting the main celebrant.
And we know from Portrait that Stephen was actually quite drawn to that role, wasn't he? He liked the idea of being involved, but not the main guy.
Precisely. He explicitly shrank from the dignity of celebrant. He didn't want that ultimate responsibility, that spotlight. He preferred the idea of self-effacement, being sort of aloof from the altar, forgotten by the people.
He even pictured himself in the vestments, like the tunicle of a subdeacon. So, service, but a specific kind of service, almost hidden service.
Yes, a minor sacred office. Utility without the final burden of authority. But here's the theological catch.
The priest isn't the ultimate boss.
Exactly. In the hierarchy, the priest is himself a servant of God.
Yeah.
So if you serve the priest...
You're serving someone who is already serving. You're doubly indentured, a server of a servant.
That's the concept. It's that layering of servitude.
And Joyce is playing with some very high-level religious language here too, isn't he? The Pope's title.
Oh, absolutely. The Pope's formal title is Servus Servorum Dei, servant of the servants of God. It's meant to signify ultimate humility combined with ultimate spiritual authority.
But Stephen flips it.
He completely inverts it. He takes this phrase of profound spiritual dedication and twists it into something about, well, squalid secular degradation. He's not serving the servants of God. He feels like he's serving his servant, Mulligan, in this drafty tower.
It's fascinating how he immediately applies this complex theological idea to his current situation. Holding that bowl crystallizes it.
It does. He sees that he's just swapped one master for another. He escaped the perceived chains of the Catholic Church only to walk into this parasitic relationship with Mulligan and by extension, Haines.
So he's unshackled from Rome, maybe, but still unfree?
Totally unfree. He serves Mulligan, giving him money, putting up with his antics, and Mulligan in turn is always kind of sucking up to Haines, the Englishman.
The representative of the British overlord.
Right, so you get this whole chain of dependency, social, financial, political, all masked as this sort of bohemian living arrangement.
And the phrase itself, server of servants, it has this heavy, almost biblical weight to it. Is there an echo of something older there?
There is. Commentators point to the curse on Canaan in Genesis. Noah curses him. A servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. Genesis 9.25.
Wow. So Stephen's applying a biblical curse to his own situation.
It carries that weight, that sense of ancient, inescapable double bondage. It tells you just how profoundly burdened and subordinate he feels right now.
It's a really bleak assessment of his life at this moment.
It is. Now, we know, looking ahead in the book, that Stephen will find a different kind of service later on. He plays a sort of almost joyful deacon role to Bloom's priest figure in the Ithaca episode.
A very different dynamic.
Completely different. But here, holding this grubby shaving bowl, the service is just bitter. It's servitude, pure and simple.
And just as we digest that heavy thought, Joyce yanks us right down into the tower room. The shift in atmosphere is almost violent.
It really is. We go from Stephen's complex internal monologue straight into the physical reality of the living room, and it's grim.
Gloomy, domed living room, that's the description.
Yeah, and we see Mulligan immediately, briskly to and fro about the hearth. He's cooking breakfast, still wearing his gown.
Still playing the mock priest from the roof, in a way.
In a way, yeah. Moving back and forth, hiding, and then revealing the yellow glow of the fire. It's an open hearth, not a stove.
Which leads directly to the main problem in the room.
The smoke. Joyce is very specific. A cloud of coal smoke and fumes of fried grease floated, turning. It's trapped in that domed ceiling. You can almost smell it.
It sounds suffocating.
It is. Instant claustrophobia. Greasy, smoky air. It kind of physically embodies the toxic situation they're in, doesn't it?
And Mulligan's reaction is typically dramatic.
Oh, immediately. "We'll be choked," he yells. And then, "Haines, open that door, will you?" That practical need, get some air in here, drives the next bit of action.
Before they get the door open, though, there's this tiny architectural detail Joyce includes. The light coming in.
Ah, yes. The high barbacans. 2 shafts of daylight falling across the floor from these openings.
What exactly are barbacans in this context? It sounds quite grand.
It does, but here it's likely referring to something more specific. Not the big outer defenses of a castle, but an older meaning. Those angled wells or loopholes in the thick walls.
Like arrow slits.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Openings designed for shooting missiles out, for defense. It grounds the tower as a real military structure.
So these futures built for violence are now just letting in a bit of soft daylight.
Exactly. And that detail emphasizes the decay, maybe. This defensive structure meant to keep enemies out now feels like it's trapping Stephen in. The only light filters through these narrow old slits designed for warfare.
There's a definite sense of entrapment. And the room itself, the hearth especially, seems loaded with future significance too.
It is. That hearthstone, where Mulligan is currently frying bacon, becomes the altar stone later in the Circe episode for that mock Black Mass.
So the sacred and the profane, the domestic and the blasphemous, they're all colliding right here in this smoky room.
It's classic Joyce, layering those meanings. And notice Haines, the Englishman Mulligan asks to open the door. Where is he?
He's in a hammock.
Right. Haines, the tall figure, gets up from the hammock. And that's another little nod to reality Major Trench, who lived there before Joyce, apparently slept in a hammock.
So Haines, the symbol of British power, is literally occupying the space, the habits of the previous military occupant.
It subtly reinforces his role as the inheritor, the current representative of that imperial presence in the tower.
Okay, so Haines gets up to open the door, but it's not that simple.
No. He opens the inner doors, maybe separating the living area from the entrance platform, but the main door, the heavy exterior one...
That needs a key. And who has the key?
Mulligan says Dedalus has it, and shouts Kinch, his nickname for Stephen.
So Stephen, the servant, holds the key to their escape from the smoke.
Fitting, isn't it? He puts the shaving bowl down on a locker, finds the key, and then Joyce gives us this great sound detail. The key scraped round harshly twice in the lock.
Ooh, I like that. It's not an easy opening. It sounds like effort, like resistance.
It does. Like even getting fresh air requires this grating struggle. Finally, the door set ajar and welcome light and bright air flood in. Relief.
And this door, this specific entrance they just opened, it connects to the tower's dark history, doesn't it? And that Black Panther.
Exactly. We have to remember the story associated with this tower, with Major Trench. His nightmare.
The one that apparently drove him out.
That's the story. He supposedly dreamt that a Black Panther was crouching on the hearth waiting to spring, right there where Mulligan was just cooking.
That's genuinely creepy, and he reacted violently.
Woke up terrified, grabbed his revolver, and fired it towards the fireplace, which would have been very near where Joyce, or Stephen in the book, was sleeping.
The Black Panther just dropped in there amidst the breakfast chaos. And we know, as readers of Ulysses, that theme comes back later. It's not just a random anecdote.
Not at all. It becomes a recurring motif representing something wild, maybe dangerous, maybe connected to subconscious fears or threats. But before we unpack the historical panther...
Ah, right. There's more to the panther.
Oh, much more. But first, we have to get through breakfast itself, which is pure performance art from Mulligan.
Right. The food is ready. Mulligan slams down the fry-up in the teapot.
Heavily, yeah, and immediately launches into this mock grace. Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts. Only to follow it instantly with...
A crisis. Oh, Jay, there's no milk.
Yes, instant tantrum. He flops down in a sudden pet, whining about the place. What sort of a kip is this? Total shift from pious blessing to childish complaint.
And this milk crisis, it actually highlights a bit of tension between him and Stephen, culturally.
It does. Stephen, thinking of his time abroad, suggests a Paris fad, using lemon in the tea.
Which Mulligan completely dismisses.
Scorns it. Damn your Paris fads. He wants proper Sandycove milk, local Irish milk. It shows Mulligan as rooted in the immediate, the local, the robustly Irish, maybe?
Yeah.
Contrasting Stephen's more European intellectual vibe.
Luckily, Haines steps in. The Englishman saves the day.
Right, that woman is coming up with the milk.
And Mulligan's mood flips again, instantly.
From petulance to blessing again. Exactly. The blessings of God on you, he cries, jumping up. He tells Haines to pour the tea while he starts hacking up the fried bread and kidneys, and then finishes with another grand mock Latin sign of the cross over the plates. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
He just can't resist performing, can he? It's constant.
He seems to need a role. Mock priest, pious communicant, petulant child, hearty host. He cycles through them. But let's look at his language here, too. Joyce is doing something specific with how Mulligan speaks, especially when he's annoyed.
You mean the swearing, or the not quite swearing?
Exactly, the not quite swearing. The sources call it minced oath, dodging the curse.
Using stand-in words to avoid saying God or Jesus directly.
Right, like when he's choking on the smoke, he yells, Janie Mack, I'm choked.
Which is a classic Dublin expression, isn't it?
It is. A minced form of Jesus Jack, apparently linked to a children's rhyme. It's a very specific, very vernacular. It lets him vent without, technically blaspheming.
And when the milk is missing.
Oh, Jay, there's no milk. J for Jesus. It shows how ingrained that avoidance is, even for someone like Mulligan who seems so irreverent.
But it's a selective reverence, isn't it? Because he dodges those divine names, but he has absolutely no problem with other kinds of offensive language.
That's the key insight. He uses minced oaths for God, but embraces full-on bawdy profanity for everything else. He performs his irreverence through crude humor.
We get two prime examples right here at the breakfast table. First, when he puts the food down.
He says, I'm melting, he said, as the candle remarked when, and then stops himself dramatically. But hush, not a word more on that subject.
Given Mulligan's track record, what kind of joke is that likely to be?
It's almost certainly a setup for a dildo joke. The melting candle, the implied heat, it's suggestive. He starts down that path, makes a show of censoring himself, but the implication is clear.
And the censorship is part of the performance.
Totally. And then he follows it up almost immediately with the tea joke. Haines makes an innocent comment about the tea being strong.
And Mulligan pounces.
Pounces. He adopts this old woman's wheedling voice, quoting old Mother Grogan. He turns the simple act of making tea into this setup for vulgarity.
When I makes tea, I makes tea, and when I makes water, I makes water.
He's putting on this folksy, slightly mocking persona to deliver the punchline, which comes via a supposed quote from Mrs. Cahill.
God send you don't make them in the one pot.
Yeah, just a straightforwardly dirty joke about urine in the teapot. It follows the earlier hint of sexual humor with something purely scatological.
So the breakfast scene really establishes Mulligan's voice, the mix of mock religious language, minced oaths, and then these bursts of really raw body humor.
Exactly. He's a linguistic chameleon, constantly performing, constantly pushing boundaries, but in very specific ways. It's a brilliant piece of characterization through dialogue.
Okay, so we've had the servitude, the smoky room, the key, the breakfast chaos, the jokes. Now let's loop back to that ominous detail, the Black Panther.
Right, because Trench's nightmare isn't just a spooky anecdote about the tower. Joyce is using that image, and specifically the name Panther, to tap into something much deeper, much older.
We're talking about a real historical figure.
We are Tiberius Julius Abdes Pantera, a Roman soldier.
This is where it gets really fascinating. Tell us about him.
Okay, so Pantera was a Roman soldier, likely of Phoenician origin from Sidon, modern-day Lebanon. He lived roughly from 22 BCE to 40 AD. We only really know about him because his tombstone turned up.
Found by accident.
Yeah, apparently found by railway workers in Germany, Bingerbrook, back in 1859. Pure chance.
And what did the tombstone say? What do we know about his career?
It's quite informative. It gives his name, origin, Sidon, age at death, 62, and his service record. Served 40 years, former standard bearer of the First Cohort of Archers.
40 years. That's a long time in the Roman army.
It's huge. Standard enlistment was more like 25 years. So he was a career soldier, a veteran, and standard bearer, a signifer, an important position in the cohort.
Let's break down the name itself. Tiberius Julius sounds very Roman.
Those are his acquired Roman names, likely granted upon receiving citizenship after his long service, possibly indicating patronage. Pantera is his third name, his cognomen. It's Greek for panther.
Was Pantera a common name?
It seems it wasn't incredibly rare, especially for soldiers. And for a standard bearer who might traditionally wear the pelt of a predatory animal like a panther or a bear, it makes a certain kind of sense. It suggests ferocity, maybe.
And the name Abdes?
That links him back to Sidon. Ab means servant of in Phoenician and other Semitic languages. Abdes was a known name in the region, used by various groups, including Phoenicians and Jews. So he's this Phoenician archer, a long-serving standard bearer in the Roman army named Panther.
A servant of the Roman Empire, named Panther.
Got it in one. A powerful image of military service and imperial might.
And the reason this particular soldier is so significant, or at least controversial, is because of a long-standing, often hostile theory connecting the name Pantera to...
That's the heart of it. This connection, or allegation, goes way back. The earliest source we have mentioning it is the 2nd century pagan philosopher Celsus.
We only know Celsus's work because a Christian writer refuted it. Right?
Exactly. Origen, a major Christian theologian, wrote a massive rebuttal called Against Celsum. And in quoting Celsus to argue against him, Origen preserved Celsus's claims.
And what did Celsus claim about Jesus's origins?
Celsus alleged that Mary, Jesus's mother, was cast out by her husband for adultery, and that Jesus was actually the illegitimate son of a Roman soldier named Panthera.
A direct attack on the virgin birth narrative.
Absolutely. Origen, of course, dismisses it as slander, a fabrication designed to undermine Christian belief. But the story didn't die there.
It entered Jewish tradition, too.
It did, notably in the Talmud. There are passages that refer to Jesus, sometimes using the name Ben Stada, son of Stada. And one clarification by Rabbi Hizda explicitly states, Ben Stada is Ben Pantera.
So son of Stada equals son of Pantera. Who or what was Stada?
It seems Stada wasn't the father's name, but an epithet applied to Mary herself. It's Aramaic, meaning something like she who turned aside or was unfaithful. Essentially, an adulteress. So in this critical tradition, Jesus is the son of the adulteress, whose lover was named Pantera.
Wow, that's quite a lineage they constructed. And this became fodder for later anti-Christian writings.
Yes, particularly in the medieval period. Texts like the Toledot Yeshu, which means the life of Jesus, but presents a kind of counter-gospel or satirical history. These texts explicitly name Jesus as the son of Pantera and accuse him of sorcery, heresy, and having an illegitimate birth.
So the name Pantera became a kind of shorthand in these critical or hostile traditions for challenging Christian origins.
Precisely. Whether historically true or not, the name itself became a powerful tool for critique and satire for centuries.
Okay, so that's the tradition. But what about this specific soldier, Tiberius Julius Abdes Pantera, the guy whose tombstone they found in Germany? Could he have actually been the father? What do modern scholars think?
The general consensus among mainstream historians and biblical scholars, people like Raymond Brown, Maurice Casey, Andrew Zeichmann, is that a direct link is highly unlikely. or purely fanciful.
Why? Is it just lack of evidence?
It's partly lack of positive evidence, but there's also strong counter-evidence. For example, Zeitman looked closely at the military records. Pantera's unit, the First Cohort of Archers, seems to have been stationed in Germania, or the Balkans, during the likely period of Jesus' conception, around 6 to 4 BC.
So he probably wasn't even in Judea or Galilee at the right time.
Exactly. The geography and timeline just don't seem to match up for him to be the biological father.
So if this Pantera probably wasn't the father, where did this persistent story come from? Why fixate on the name Pantera?
Well, one very compelling theory, and this feels incredibly relevant to Joyce, is that it might have originated as a pun.
A pun? On what?
On the Greek word for virgin. The Greek word for panther is panther, Athoth. The Greek word for virgin is parthenos, parthos.
Whoa. Panther and Parthenos, they sound very similar.
Very similar. So the theory goes that Greek-speaking critics, maybe like Celsus writing in Alexandria, were making a clever, sarcastic wordplay.
So instead of son of the virgin,
It becomes son of the panther. It's a way to mock the Christian claim of miraculous birth by substituting this wild, animalistic, very human father figure, the soldier, the panther. It's satire embedded in a sound-alike word.
that is fascinating. And Joyce, the absolute master of puns and layered meanings, drops this Black Panther image rooted in Trench's very real nightmare about the Tower Hearth into his narrative.
Knowing, or at least playing with, this whole 2,000-year history of theological controversy, military service, imperial power, and linguistic games wrapped up in that single name, Pantera.
So the panther crouching on the hearth isn't just a spooky dream element. It's potentially loaded with all this historical and theological baggage.
It absolutely resonates with the themes already swirling around Stephen's service, legitimacy, power, the shadow of empire, the rejection of religious dogma, the search for paternity. It connects on so many levels.
Okay, let's try and pull these threads together then. We've covered a lot in just these 50-odd lines on pages 10 and 11.
We really have. It's dense stuff.
So first we had the shaving bowl. Starting point.
Right, and how that mundane object launched Stephen into this profound meditation on servitude, realizing he swapped the church for Mulligan, becoming the server of a servant, echoing that ancient curse, feeling utterly unfree.
Then second, the setting itself, the tower's interior.
Yeah, the gloomy domed room, the choking smoke from the hearth, the symbolism of that hearth as a future altar stone, and those barbacans, the defensive loopholes letting in light, emphasizing the feeling of being trapped in this decaying military structure.
Third, the language and humor. Very vivid.
Absolutely. Mulligan's performance, his calculated use of minced oaths like Janie Mack and OJ to avoid direct blasphemy, contrasted with his immediate dive into really crude body humor, the candle joke, the Mother Grogan tureen joke. It shows his whole complex performative personality.
And finally, beneath it all, lurking by the hearth, the Black Panther.
Which connects us to Trench's trauma, but more deeply, to the historical figure of Tiberius Julius Abdes Pantera, the Roman soldier, the imperial servant, and through him to that centuries-long controversy and satirical tradition using his name, possibly based on that Pantheoparthenos pun, to challenge the foundations of Christianity.
So a simple breakfast scene becomes a nexus for servitude, symbolism, Irish vernacular, and ancient historical controversy. Only Joyce.
Pretty much. The way he weaves the immediate, the personal, the historical, and the mythological together in just a few lines is just breathtaking.
So a final thought for you, our listener, to maybe mull over as you continue with Ulysses. We met the historical Pantera, a man who was quite literally a server of the Roman Empire for 40 years, a dedicated military servant.
A figure of ancient power, yes, but ultimately defined by his service.
Right. So given Stephen Dedalus's absolute obsession in these early chapters with freedom versus servitude, spiritual service, financial service, intellectual service, maybe consider this. To what extent does the shadow of the panther, this ancient, powerful military servant figure, loom over Stephen's own narrative as the self-proclaimed server of a servant?
Does escaping the service of the church just mean falling under the shadow of a different kind of power, a different kind of required service? The demands of the secular world, the state, the empire that Pantera represented. Is the panther still crouching on the hearth, metaphorically speaking, waiting to spring on Stephen too?
Something powerful to think about. That brings us to the end of this deep dive into lines 306 to 362. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time as we tackle the next section of Ulysses.